The strange thing about 2025 is that for how brutal it's been, especially for queer music, I gotta be honest, it's one of its strongest years. For what it's worth, for such a horrible year for the queers, trans people especially, these are some pretty good songs. My personal favorite song of the year is a queer furry song about making amends with your past. I'm not saying this is because suffering, for the record. People adore the 80s for gay music despite the AIDS crisis, and honestly, all the pop music of that decade sounds exactly the same. Jelly Roll suffered, and his music is ass. It's weird because the counterculture isn't pop culture anymore, so we've gotten these extremely bizarre genre mashes in the underground. Amongst a furious trans youth particularly, has come this mixture of breakcore, hyperpop, hip-hop, brutal noise, and punk. We first caught a glimpse of this with 100 Gex of all things. And that was the only time I've ever seen this scene mainstream because it is so hostile. Even the friendliest songs from acts like Food House and Charlie XCX still have this bite to it. Since 2020, this movement has just exploded with tons of explosive songs. Black Dresses, Femtanil, Isbroki, Rebecca Black, and plenty more. This is also in tandem with a newish genre-ish movement-ish. Furries make music, Pegasisters and Bronies make music, and now they've all been forcefully shoved together by me into this counterculture label formed out of 2000s emo aesthetics, colorful art, and a, general safe space for a closeted youth stuck in a fascist world. This is where Violet Pony, Null No, Weather Day, and others come to play. You'll see them flying by on the screen. Why? The internet has become quite closed off, so in the unseen eye of the algorithms and moderation has emerged these, I guess I would call them open secrets, these scenes of people making violent, noisy, and inaccessible music. There's also the angle of acceptability. Especially in 2024, queer people try to appear understandable and human since their rights are negotiable in exchange for economic prosperity, citation needed. Since that failed, outsider artists have begun making music that you cannot listen to. Even past the scene, Mojave Phone Booth, Kalman, and even Yatseret Shadim have all moved into these brutal noise directions. There have been a bunch of noise albums this year. All three of these albums have defeated records I didn't know were possible. For a time that's so dire, there's a real spirit of youth and energy still online, and I'm happy about that, even as my country flushes itself down the toilet. I talked about Chappell Roan and Lola Young a few videos back. I've since listened to Lola Young's album. It's great. And they are what I would forcefully label as safe queer icons, in quotes. On the opposite end are acts like Snake World and Uboa, who are actively hostile to the years and are more rebellious. Tired of this heat, the climate's got me beat. I don't like the divide there is between obscure queer acts like Paris Timopt, I think that's how it's pronounced, that's what autocorrect is telling me, and ZX Spectrogram and major acts like Chappell Roan and Lola Young because it's cruel. No one chooses their popularity. I don't like that Janelle Monáe and Backwash aren't mainstream because our culture is disgusting, but I also don't blame the people who are mainstream. I blame the gatekeepers, the businesses, the labels, the scum. However, my favorite category to make up is what I like to dub in these categories, not applicable. Last year, I did a video on Patricia Taxxon's Bicycle, and I have had misgivings with that video. Having since rewatched it, it's fine. I think my main issue was all the external stuff in my life about why I chose to do it, the fact that I was coy about who Taxxon was because I didn't do much research. I knew Taxxon was a woman. I didn't know they were trans because I didn't care. It also came from the spite I threw towards my ex-friends, along with admitting it was an easy project before Plastic Death, and having shred a lot of that, I am happy that I at least committed to putting it as my album of the year last year. I proudly consider that album a Rorschach for the soul, because it's such a simple project about dreaming and something better in the future, and building it. This motif of a bicycle, building it, riding it, going on a journey. And extending that to the person you love, getting to the destination, dreaming, and then applying that dream to reality. I'll give my video this. I didn't talk much about myself in it. I've had time to properly research Taxxon, figure out her history, and explore more of her music. When I did that video, I didn't really know how to approach it. I was super new to making videos. I think at the time it got 1 view, which was an improvement from my Dead Times video, which had no views. And on that note, what is this? 500 views? When the fuck did that happen?
Who are you people?
So anyway.
Alright, let's fucking do this.
I won't go over everything I learned in that time. They've since released a few projects, The Electrifying Incident and Ignition. They released a cover of the Mountain Goats' No Children and
I hope that our few remaining friends give up on trying to save us.
I gotta say, it's a killer cover. I've had time to explore the electrical technical subgenre tech dog lives in. You know, I've been getting these acts thrown at me that are very similar to that kind of technical music. Stuff. Japanese Footsteps, Mike Patton, Prurient, etc. Because electronic music is made to explore, music theory, not far from the industrial stuff Throbbing Gristle made. Or even classical music. Electronic music is super new and unbound to the limitations of acoustic and analog music. That's not to say they're completely limited. We're still figuring out how we can shuffle these keys and all that and make new ideas. What am I talking about? Tech Dog, like other super albums of its kind, is about grief. Over time passing, people you love, the past. Patricia Taxxon is an optimist, emotional, intellectual musician. Their album covers the furries because it's an outsider culture. Their music takes influence from electronic, EDM, hyperpop, and ambient. The reason I had trouble with Bicycle is that I was so unfamiliar to this kind of music. My trouble was, despite having family and friends that are neurodivergent, queer, and being weird myself, actually putting that down into words is extremely difficult for me. I get weird trying to explain queerness because I feel like I don't know what I'm talking about. I didn't even like saying the word queer for years because I thought it kind of sounded like a slur. And I still kind of do. But I bring all this up in preparation for Ignition because I have a lot more complicated feelings about it. Ignition released this year, I really enjoyed it, and I promised to cover it. Knowing better about how I compose those videos as well as how these communities produce music, I think this is a good check to see, my skills in the field a year later. And I have a lot of thoughts on its main motif, which is, the concept of starting anew. So, number 1, musical construction. Ignition is a short electronic album which utilizes elements of chiptune, ambient, and synth. Note that the only label besides indie that is labeled in the genre tags is furry, which I'll touch on later. The album's only info is I got depressed and forgot how to make music. Been there, girlfriend. The album cover is a pixelated image of a little critter driving a car with a crude new album written in the sky. The opening track is a harsh track. It's a technical song with a hard bass crunching below a mixture of higher plonks, with additional samples that are... Well, the song is titled I'm Trying My Best.
What are you doing?
my best.
It definitely sounds... It reminds me of the awkward sense of getting back into an old habit after a while. You fell out of it, got bummed out, and got back in with a charge, and it feels awkward and rusty. So there's this mix of reprise for the joy and the return, but also this angle of angst and stress that comes with being so out of tune. You're slower, confused, and even distant. The following track, Miss Drizzle, is a simpler electronic track, much more to the point. Arguably too safe. Ooh Ooh, Tardigrade, spelled like that, is this whimsical song, presumably about the observation of the strange and alien tardigrade. This is the third time I've seen an artist punk out over an ancient alien being. First with Cosmo Sheldrick's Tardigrade song.
These are the things I never will do.
Then with Kamide's music for Cambrian Animals. Anyway, this song is both whimsy, like that of Sheldrick, and Kamide. But like with the opener, there's these electronic squelches that breathe in and out to emphasize the distance between a microspecies that's almost invincible and humans. Maritime follows that up with an electric dance track, plonky and soft, with a soft whistle synth playing behind it. It gives this bouncy dance track this grounding that's kind of pretty. This album, while I do label it chiptune, uses a lot of retro synths, as I call them. The second half of the song awakens with a distorted sample and another high-pitched sample which rises. As another bright synth comes into the mix, it's a very motivational cut. It sounds like a Boards of Canada song, but not creepy or dreadful. Conspicuous Easement and Absent Minded 2 are the only tracks with lyrics from Taxxon herself. Conspicuous Easement is, from what I can tell, well...
Is he on to something? Is he on to any lead?
First off, I love the composition.
Am I still changing? Am I still molting in the sea?
Especially in the breakdown after the poem is sung out. It's a very quick and abrupt song.
Conspicuous easement. I'm not gonna please him. I'll die if I leave him.
I believe this is a song about conforming to another person, watching them with admiration and ease, and growing attached in a way that morphs you. You conform to their lifestyle to please them, but in doing so, you lose track of what you want. Does this same person see you the same way?
He's cooking nothing, I'm waiting for his set to fucking end. When's the last time I felt happy, exalted in the sea?
I think this is my personal favorite on the album. I kind of like that the melody sounds like a folk tune. I could imagine the Oh Hellos making this song on Notos or Severus. In comparison, Absent Minded 2, probably a sequel to a song I don't remember or haven't heard, is a much longer track. Bass buzzes, softer synth plonks, and glitchy details beneath Taxxon's softer vocals.
I'm absent-minded.
It's catchy, I'll give it that. It doesn't click as strongly for me, though. I think it's about developing routine that turns you into a drone. The writing in the two verses has aspects of the nuclear family paradigm. Work through the day, drink at night, don't talk to anyone.
Cut 1,000 extra calories, keep it up and keep it lean, it's okay.
Either you think of your impending death every night, or you go somewhere else. It's like an anti-homesick song. The closing track, Myselves, is a long indie opera, multiple parts that close out the soundtrack. An epitaph. I'll touch on this one later too. There's 3 segments to the song, and each piece, though tangibly related, share aspects of one another. Even if they each end abruptly, the song is quite coherent. especially enjoy the ending. Bleak's strategies is a slower cut with large waves of atmosphere, long passages of bells, harmonies, and samples. It's the longest song on the album, definitely the most ethereal and calm. Makes me think of standing on the edge of the rocks, watching the waves crash against the cliff, the only light of a night being a lighthouse swirling in the abyss. It's interesting. Ice Team is a harder track with a drum and bass construction and this fast-paced synth behind it. It's club-like, but the more moderate tempo gives it a colder mood. That makes sense. I think it's one of the more enjoyable cuts too. I especially love the stretched out feedback that plays as the notes progressively rise. The thing that I learned from acts like Common, Japanese Footsteps, and even funk acts like Ball and Jack is that music made for construction, experimentation, and progressions are almost always interesting to listen to. If you go digging real deep, you can find some real obscure pieces of pure art in experimental music. From the industrial scene with Pedestrian Deposit, the wild avant-garde act Natural Snow Buildings, especially in genre crossroads like Atergo Lupi or Machina. The purpose is to provoke and make you think. By giving you something different, it makes you look at what you're familiar with and what you're missing. Even the most mainstream of these acts, like Marilyn Manson or Rob Zombie, all make music that's so othering. I'm listening as I write this to Kiki's newest album, Death of a Daisy and Birth of an Oyster. It's basically everything I'm talking about here.
Isn't this fun?
I'll come back to the label of outsider art because it has another connotation that I want to confront. For now, I'm focusing on music that's too bizarre to be mainstream. Number 2, authorial applicative. Okay, Ignition is a fairly direct project. The album cover, especially with the little guy here, okay, this is a weird comparison. This looks like a driver's license. And paired with the car spitting out smoke, the birds flying out, and the simplicity of it, makes this album seem like a blank canvas with no prior muscle memory. Something that just kind of popped out, getting into the seed of something new and speeding off, chaos be damned. Spoon's album Transference is made with this blueprint, and that album comes off as messy, raw, incoherent, and especially emotional. Ten Skies, Bicycle, Agnes, and Hilda are all very intentional albums. They're all flooded with personality, perspective, and life. Ignition is very simplistic in its construction. Bicycle and Ten Skies specifically are almost cinematic. Agnes and Hilda feels very freeing and extroverted. Ignition's minimal shifts result in a strangely uncomfortable album. One where the pieces are there, the memories are there, but the muscle memory is wiped. It's like having to learn to walk again. You get used to what you know how to do, and when it gets ripped away, jumping back into it is haunting. With that said, number 3, autistic and neurodivergent allegory. There's one development in the Taxxon cinematic universe that does kind of shape Ignition, that being Am I Plural. You can watch it for yourself because I do not have the personal experience to explain it. Essentially, Taxxon was diagnosed with DAD, which broadly speaking is an understudied personality disorder caused by a mixture of personal and neurological trauma. I bring this up, and we'll try to go more into it in the next section because, well, before this, Taxxon already had autism. Taxxon is not shy of her neurodivergence. In her video on ethics and furries, she shows a variety of music that has an autistic quality to it. There's an inability in the construction of the material to communicate emotion, intent, and purpose through normal musical means. So they don't.
Fair granite.
I'm not home right now.
On that note, I listened to Lauren Anderson's album Amelia about Amelia Earhart. She flew a plane until she didn't. Well, a real interesting dive into all the concepts and hanging around that disappearance and allusions to the history. That album is also dreamlike, angry, and different.
I'm climbing into the cockpit, smiling at the photographers.
Different. Whenever I talk about boring or lame music on this channel, the thing to note is that normal people shift towards boring music because it makes them feel safe. And the idea that they are normal and not unlike the people they're stuck with. It's more important to signal that you align with the community like you instead of expressing your uniqueness. I frankly enjoy that Taxxon's second channel is a bunch of random concepts because there's so much life and history in it. Ignition holds an autistic angle in the strange expression of destabilization. In not being able to build off the pieces of old works, it comes off raw and disorientated. Electronic music like this is abstract. You have to look inside and dig pieces out of yourself.
Ignore what the others say. Grow your beard out.
The result is that some ideas are very clear, but others are obfuscated. The method of being able to conjure ideas is blurry. Think why an album like Adele's 30 or Magdalena Bay's Imaginal Disc are accessible and wildly popular, where Beth Gibbons' Lives Outgrown or Florence and the Machine's Dance Fever have more intent, exploration, and aren't nearly as critically praised. The former are very familiar and spoken from casual backgrounds, i.e. marriage and love. The latter are more deep and confrontational, aging and encroaching death, and independence and historical fiction. Both are still popular, but in different ways. This is obviously interpretational, you're free to disagree. I just like talking about music, I find.
Isn't this fun?
Number 4. Furry, chiptune, and outsider art.
Now we're going deeper into the nerd shit, the squiggly lines.
Let me start with outsider music. This concept is very fluid and only recently has shifted into something less isolative, but outsider art is basically art made by people who don't fit into contemporary or neurotypical expression. Johnston's Hi How Are You is a lo-fi rock project that's very out there, strange and emotional.
No more pushing Joe around. No more pushing Joe around. There'll be no more pushing Joe around. He's up and punching now.
Wesley Willis was a man who made raw rambles out of synthboard samples. Well, basically just wrote about catchphrases, but both formed extremely passionate fan bases. There were people who criticized their fans for taking advantage of the disabled. Ironic given they only had a living because people liked them. Outsider art should refer to the kind of music being produced, to be out of the scope of what we consider normal, instead of the person who produces it and what they produce. I would argue people should get to choose to step out of the orbit of what is allowed. Testing composition, exploring strange ideas, and testing them. I would argue outsider art should refer to art that exists not in spite of contemporary rules or even because of them, but instead entirely schismed from it. Outsider art should be a reflection of what the mainstream doesn't cover, not what it excludes. The deep rage and trance music like Chain Remover, Fentanyl, or Is Brokey. The sexuality and homosexual music out of Model Actress and Debris.
Okay, I'll share this. When I was 5, I remember clearly my want to have a Cinderella birthday party. And when the moment came and I changed my mind, I was quiet, alone, and devastated. While the phone was ringing, she's a girl dancer, slipping through a window, speeding through an alley, answering all the calls that ring in her head.
Autistic music like Lauren Anderson and our aforementioned Taxxon, that doesn't mean an outsider artist can't eventually become mainstream. It's quite easy, just do what Madonna and Miley Cyrus do and make something contemporary. And for artists on the inside, they aren't outsider because they venture out like Talking Heads or Big Thief, or even just being an outsider making contemporary music like Otto Hart, Paris Mopt, or Kim Petras. Going experimental doesn't exclude you from the warmth of the inside. You specifically have to be inaccessible here. The body's near incoherent wailing, Backwash's brutal songwriting, harsh beats,
Set my paws in the shin. How many minds is assist? How many more will bring? Don't have my body. Probably gonna set me off in the wind.
Deer hoofs and shoo shoo's mix of atonal noises, anxious singing, and strange songwriting.
Transsexuals, taxi drivers, homosexuals, drug dealers, mariachis, pickpockets.
Furry is a bit more abstract. As a concept for a genre, it comes out of the same abstract concept of outside. Taxxon herself identifies as a furry. Puppy Helic. Man, I miss making videos like this. I mean, if the dogs have a problem, they can take it up with the courts. Where these two concepts converge is with chiptune, which is a newish subgenre of indietronic that evolved from the sound bites portable game systems could emit. I've talked about these artists here and there: Nobonoko, Greenhouse, Napcast, Lianhua, and Violet Pony. Did Animal Crossing Wild World radicalize a generation of kids? Did My Little Pony lead to the success of Pink Pony Club? Why is KK Slider a nudist? Furry has a ton of different connotations. I'll play some samples here.
I'm kind of weird and killed a vibe. I always suck at reading signs. I thought that you were being nice when you put my paw up your thigh. I need.
What I will say here is that they share an aspect of pure personal expression. There's no care for mockery or discomfort. This is who I am going to be, and you're going to take it. Not everyone takes it, hence why it's a subculture. Chiptune provides a unique soundscape that's bright, nostalgic, small, and safe. Paired with these fictionalized fursonas, it's an escape from the real into a fictional mirror that a person can engage with something they feel safe with. To be able to be something else that they feel more comfortable with. I use the spider as my little sticker guy for that reason. Yeah, I know there's like a million debates about the other subtexts. Look, I don't care. What I liked about Bicycle so much is the freeing quality of imagination. Ignition contains one of Taxxon's many personas. One note is that Taxxon, explained in a different video, went from identity to identity with the creatures she drew. You could look at Ignition as either a different identity taking the wheel and experimenting with an art style or expression unfamiliar to them, or perhaps an attempt to garner this new perspective and craft this new perspective with the familiar tools. You get the quality of outsider art trying to express an abstract feeling outside of the contemporary lexicon, the furry quality of identity in trying to find an expression that suits you, and the subgenre. The abstract and limitless potential of electronic, the constructions of classical, and the independent quality that allows for more mutual concepts and emotions. A fursona can better replicate a tone or emotion through snouts, sharp teeth, larger ears, wings, hooves, especially in terms of autistic expression or queerness, not because the animals in real life are just so fun, but more because combining the human shape with beastly qualities better expresses an outsider nature. Look at, monsters, or I guess this is the new term, monster fuckers. I love the internet. I'm not touching on the trans nature because I'm not, and I wouldn't know how to write that out anyway. What I do know is that in the abyss, queer people project onto abused monsters. When I was young, I remember being disappointed when the Beast in Beauty and the Beast turned into a human. Really disappointed. That movie kind of sucked anyway. The monster is ostracized, and that's relatable.
My best.
When they're turned into a real boy, the implication is that you have to shed off your monstrous qualities to be welcomed. Take a movie like Nimona, for instance. Nimona is a fun, chaotic, and frankly monstrous person, or at least that's how the world sees her because she isn't boring. You can also look at how K-pop Demon Hunter showed that with its use of Korean mythology. You can say what you want about the weirdness or otherness or degeneracy of it, but I would argue if your point is that people should be more normal, you're approaching it wrong. Normal is boring, and I'm not interested in all the other debates about it because, quite frankly, they're pictures. But what about one time I saw on the news? Okay. So when the president fucks kids, it's okay. Sorry, I hate the internet. Number 5, personal interpretation. To me, Ignition is an album about starting over. Clean slate, fresh start, scratch.
My best.
You have the tools you collected, the muscle memory, the skills you earned, and the craft you honed. It's all gone. Now you can create something fresh and start from a new angle. The first song reminds me quite a lot of my first attempt at creating an FL Studio beat versus my second. My first time was incoherent and atonal. My second was boring. The first time I had no muscle, the second time I played it safe. Each song on the album sounds like trying to scope out a new direction for something unfamiliar. Conspicuous Easement is about approaching a relationship both from trying to assimilate to someone else's expectations while trying to read them to see if they recognize what you're doing. I'm getting a lot of mileage out of that song. Absent Minded 2 feels like a song about falling into routine, getting to a stable place and turning into a robot as you adjust to everyone else, a community without any soul. There's the hyperfixation in Tardigrade, where the whimsy of a little creature attracts the narrator as they find new inspirations from such a small and insignificant place. And that kind of attention also comes in Bleak Strategies, which almost sounds like dark ambience with a positive tone. Light ambient. Maritime and Ice Team both take inspiration from their moods. Maritime is mourning and awakened to a new perspective. Ice Team is colder, with a shuddering and faster construction that's either fast-moving in the dark or stuck in a panic. Finally, Myselves.
My best.
Which comes back to the note I explored earlier with Taxxon's exploration of her mind through projected personas, letting those different identities compose, and the ending, as a result, is like a set of tools being used by multiple composers, as if each of these tracks are attempts to stretch into a new mold. Yeah, I like that. Ignition, to me, is about a fresh start. I don't normally tend to do like these kind of artist researches when doing these kind of reviews, but as I said, abstract music is very... You kind of have to look at it the same way you look at a paint splatter painting. You know, sure, you could just say, well, it's a bunch of colors, and you're right, but, you know, the purpose of art is to look at it and take something from it. A banana taped to a wall can either be drug trafficking, or it can be a statement on the worthlessness of stupid art. If you can take a urinal and turn it on its side and make money off of it, it kind of says it's something about how our culture actually values creation. The main reason I did it here, because of how, well, plain the album is. How much it's about the process of recreation, and a lot of the external stuff that was happening around the album kind of got locked into my brain as a result. Starting Over isn't a very common topic sung about. I like albums that are about very specific things, you know, especially things I've never seen before. There's that Chris Stapleton song, 15 Step, which is more about falling apart under your missteps, probably a dozen Boa songs, and others. This should, especially during this turbulent period of my own life, hit me real hard. I mean, I like the album a lot. It's a really interesting experience, even if some moments don't click as hard as it did with Bicycle for me. At the same time... Okay, let me put it like this. I have my album of the year picked out, but for a while it was Spelling's Portrait of My Heart. In terms of fantastic albums, that should be the one. It's a stunningly composed pop album about the joy of love. And that's why I don't get it. Stellar compositions, gorgeous writing, lyrics, beautiful guitar work. I'm not really into the power of love. Anytime I hear a song about the power of love or the greatness of love, I just tap out. Like, I don't care. It's not like I don't have any in my life. My family loves and tolerates me greatly. For now. It's more that when it comes to romance and connection, I'm a very cold person. I wish I wasn't, but that's where I am right now. Beep boop. Fuck, my voice is giving out. Likewise, one of the reasons I've always disliked my bicycle video is because of my difference to Taxxon. And she doesn't like nihilism, she's trans and also hyper-analytical and compassionate. In comparison, I'm boring and kind of an asshole. I'd still have this hunch that I'm not helping anyone. It shouldn't matter. Taxxon is one of a billion artists out here. And I felt like a jerk with my goofy mocking video, and I still do because in my eyes I don't treat Blur like that. After making my most intense video on Giles Corey and still goofing off in it, yeah, that's not really true. I go back and forth juggling on which videos I might want to delete that I don't like. I've managed to press those feelings down, though the only video I even think about deleting is my title one, and that's more out of spite. Spotify simps making me look dumb. That difference in perspective means that what should be a great album about finding something new and crafting something beautiful out of it, to me feels like work. I've spent most of my life after 2020 rerouting how to move forward, and by this point I'm sick of it. This channel is the only thing left I have any confidence and control in. I'm not attached to it. One day I will probably choose to leave it behind. I hate starting over. I've spent most of my life since the pandemic rerouting, and by now I'm burned out. I don't want to start over again with a fresh base. I want a supporting base to leap off from. Sorry, I know that's tedious. That's why I tend to feel weird enjoying Taxxon's work, because despite enjoying her work, we are truly miles apart in terms of personality. And, well, if she wasn't a YouTuber I was familiar with, I don't think this video would even exist. You know, what makes music special is, in many ways, the person behind it, and how much you choose to indulge in it depends on how much you're willing to take from the person. I guess my takeaway from Ignition, besides being really interesting, is that I liked it. I like how it touches on the inability to express an abstract feeling out of your heart. I think its use of persona and character is fascinating. I like how different the tracks are, but connect to a whole theme. I liked it. It was fun. I guess, I don't know. I've been in the closet and I'm not coming out because you people can't behave. I would like to be more myself, but I'm also in a rocky spot at the moment and I have been for a while.